Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of NWE Broadcast Square, where we, watch out, look at the same replay again that we looked at in the last episode. But this time I get to share with you my experience that I regularly have when bringing something to NWE, where I'm now joined by Pinsel, who will now take this replay apart again and find like 5 different things to actually change and make the lines a lot better. So if you haven't watched it yet, watch the previous episode where we go over the basic of this deck and the basics of this replay, and then come back and maybe join me in this learning experience of what else is possible with this deck. So, hello Pinsel.
Hello.
So, first things first, would you keep this hand? Do we diverge here already?
No. This is a great hand.
Yes, I think at least that. I think in like Malokip we are mostly aligned, I would say, when we discuss things. But when finding lines, I still find a lot more ways of shooting into foots that I didn't even know that existed. So now you get to watch me doing that. All right, we both keep our hands and we look at this hand. Just as a reminder, what I did here was play red level to install the humanoid resources, which is a typical play that this deck does, to just have a 0-turn Rashida Jaheim kinda, where you get to draw cards and then still get a lot of value out of things. But turns out this is not the best thing to do. So let's go back to the start of a turn. What would you do here?
So what we have already mentioned in the previous episode is that this play leaves you open to transfer of wealth, which would give the criminal a huge boost to the economy. What we can do here as another option is to just install the wage worker, ice it, and ice HQ, and then keep the humanoid play up for the next turn. While we delay our humanoid, I mean, it's still kind of safe with red level, but if the runner has a transfer, what it allows us to do is rest the draft on HQ and duck the transfer with the wage worker res. And this way, we will both be poor, but at least we wouldn't be open to a free transfer.
What I didn't realize here, what I looked at was that we have ice in hand that costs 6 to res, we have 5 credits at the end of this turn, so we can't afford to res both, which is still correct. But what would need to happen is that the runner runs into a scatter field, we res it, they don't get to the wage workers because they're rich, and then they still transfer us down to 0. But even then, we still get to duck. Like, even if we can't res the HQ ice, the worst thing that can happen is that we just duck a transfer. There will never be a situation unless the runner holds a boomerang and a transfer. And even then, like, ducking is always an option. But what might happen is that the runner has money, a boomerang, a transfer, and is able to run HQ, make us res the drafter, make us res the wage worker to duck the transfer of wealth, and then still run the remote and pay the 4 credits to trash it. If that happens, okay, that's the worst case. We can't play around that. Everything else leaves us with the rest wage worker on the board, both players poor, and rest HQ or rest remote ice, and both is fine with us. So that's the big divergence here. We are saying we are still holding the red level clearance, so we will get the value off at some point. It doesn't need to be turn 0, it can just, or like turn 1, it can just be turn 2. And after doing this, we can still do that. Maybe not even rest the wage workers because we didn't need it, stuff like that.
Yeah. One thing to mention here is also that because we only have flop, we are incentivized to make a remote iced. Otherwise, we could, if we have a hedge fund, we could ice HQ with the humanoid play, with the humanoid install.
Yeah. And there's also one thing that will also come up later. With creating a remote here safely, and while keeping HQ safe, it means that we'll be in a much better position to create more value out of fully operational by creating multiple remotes, and then draw into the cards that help us protect the centrals. So like, we need to get more value out of this fully operational. We did that already, but we did that at the cost of leaving HQ open in our line. So at the end of our turn, we looked at this, where we did create some initial value out of fully operational, but not nearly enough. So it could be a lot better. Because imagine, like next turn, we might still do red level for the humanoid, fire it, and then fire the fully operational, and maybe have created a second remote here with the draws that we did, and an ice that we drew and some installable that we drew. For example, this Spin Doctor. And so we could still do the same play, but get one more fully operational trigger out of it in this turn already. And still have a remote that we can also use in future turns. All right, so much for turn 1. Let's go over to turn 2. So still, once again, typical experience with going over replays with Pinsel. You will find something in the first few turns. What did you find here?
And so, finally, in the previous episode, we mentioned there's not much to talk about the fully operational play with wage workers. But picking up on the getting more fully operational value, we can use the red level to create a new remote with ice before playing flop and still get a wage worker click. What this means is we use the red level to clicklessly install the drafter on a remote, then use a click to install the Spin Doctor, and then we can use flop to draw 6 cards, most likely into an ice, and play the YDL to end up with a similar board state, except we now have a second remote, drew 2 more cards, and we have a Spin Doctor on the board, which means that...
And we also got wage worker value again, despite manually installing for 1 click, because we use the red level here. I think one thing, like my base approach to red level clearance is, I think, still correct. Like the basic thought that you should have is that this is worth a lot more than a simple credit and some cards or something. But in this case, we do get a lot more out of it. We do get to draw 2 more cards with fully operational, and then also turn these cards back into money. So like instead of just getting a credit and 2 cards, we did get 2 more cards from here, get to install stuff, get wage worker value out, and get your digital life value. So like this amplifies what the deck can do, and you likely draw deeper into your deck, find more stuff earlier. As we will see in this game, we would get to the Luminal probably even a turn earlier later on. So this can help you roll and steamroll the runner quite easily. Yes. Anything more at this point to say?
So maybe just if we go to the end of the turn, what we can see is we gambled on the Ingatan being safe in archives. And an additional bonus is that with the Spin Doctor on the board, even if the runner checks archives, we can just shuffle it back with a red level and be fine.
And depending on how the turn goes, we maybe don't even need to discard all that much. Like there are a lot of options depending on what we draw here. Yep. All right. So at this point, we continue with the replay. As we've said, if you want to see the full replay, go back to the other episode, the previous one, where we went into much more detail, also somewhat looking at the game from the runner side, but mostly focused on Corp. At this point, turn 3, we don't have all that much to say about. It is mostly just what follows from the previous turns. But imagine, like, at this point, we could have another remote going here. We could even have options because, like, the Spin Doctor would likely still be in that new remote. So we could this turn maybe do fully operational, draw some cards, maybe do an install in another server of an agenda, then do fully operational, go from there. There are like a lot of options that could open up from here by just having the new remote already on the board and ready to create more value for us.
Even with the delayed Spin Doctor S, we could start the turn on 9 cards, which would allow us to play YDF for 6 credits instead of the 4 we would get right now. That's just small optimization that we get.
But yeah, the next point that we have is on turn 4. So let's skip ahead through this rather normal turn 3. Set up turn from the runner with poking with bravado a little bit, and then giving us our turn 4. And just to recap, if you haven't seen or if you have forgotten about what happened in the previous episode, this is still an amazing turn. Like, this is still nothing to scoff at. Like, we did play fully operational, so saw what we drew the wage workers, played red level to install the wage workers, scored out a luminal, found a humanoid, or like got back a humanoid, played it, installed more things, played a hedge fund. Like, this is already great, but we could go better. So if you go back to the start of turn, what would you do here?
And so what we can see here is we have a lot of agendas. We kind of want to score, we can't. So we play the flop, just like the other line. And now what we always have to keep in mind is to be flexible. And in this case, scoring the luminal now takes some effort because we have to play nano now. We're going a bit poor, and because we have a fly sword on HQ and another barrier, we can actually just delay the luminal turn. We can just set up, make more money now because we have a huge hand with the YDL. Set up, double ice HQ, ice the spin doctor, and then we can just do the luminal turn next turn. And even as a bonus, instead of taking back the humanoid resource, we can take the flop back and then flop with 2 remotes. So
exactly. Whoa.
So just to math it out, here we would just do red level for the wage worker because we want that value this turn. We would YDL, and then we would already have played 3 operations, so we can just ice HQ, and then we wouldn't even have to discard here because you'll be back on 6 cards with the rest wage worker,
Exactly.
double ice HQ, and a luminal nano in hand. Whatever happens next turn, we can score and be in a similar position, but we'll be richer after scoring luminal and have more options in the turn.
Yeah, exactly. Out of interest, what ice would you install? The Maskirovka or the Hagen?
At this point, I'd probably... I don't know. It's 50-50.
Just flip a coin, put something down on HQ.
Maybe Maskirovka.
I think for myself, I think looking at our credit situation, I think I would put down the Hagen because we can still res it and do the luminal nano management turn next turn. Because the runner running into Hagen is actually really beneficial for us unless they actually find their breaker and decide to both be able to break the fly swatter and be able to break the Hagen. But like getting rid of this Jesper at this point feels really worth it to me. And the Maskirovka would just make us back our money. But what if we don't really need the money at this point? What if we want to kneecap the runner instead?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think like both are totally fine options. I think for myself, I would rather go for the Hagen here, which is I think the stronger ice in HQ maybe, but I'm not sure.
Maybe. At the end, it doesn't really matter. Similar rest cost, similar break cost.
Yeah. Cool. Yes. So let's once again go through the turn where a lot of things happen, but we could have been at this point ready to score luminal and then still do even more stuff next turn and sit on a nice comfortable credit total in case we need to respond to something that the runner does. Alright, the runner sets up a bit more, bravados our R&D. We do res a drafter, which looking back at the game after the replay might even be already a point where we shouldn't res the drafter, but I'm not sure, so let's leave it at that. But let's leave it as something to think about, because as we saw in the replay in the episode, we never got to tax the revolver out of tokens anyways. So maybe if we knew that, if we could foresee that at this point already, maybe you shouldn't res the drafter because we don't have the money. But once again, after the lines that we talked about with Pinsel here, we should have the money at this point to be able to res this drafter and put up some pressure with the second drafter in hand and be able to actually tax out the runner out of the revolver tokens. But since we made some suboptimal decisions here, we are lacking the money to be able to both push forward our plan while being able to res all the things that puts the runner back. So turn 5, things that happen after we install the second spin doctor. So up to this point we are still in agreement, but what happens now?
So what's interesting is, once again, this deck is really hard. It makes it easy to shoot yourself in the foot. And here it gives you an option after like you started your turn and you already started doing your play. And you can turn around and do something completely different.
Yeah,
in this
maybe
case,
just to like show you my state of mind, I saw that my first click went into installing a card. So what I'm thinking about is what other 2 cards do I install to get wage worker value. But what you can also do here.
Red level, once again, is an amazing card. It's a really flexible card. In this case, we have a huge hand, we have 2 right yells, we have wage worker. What we can do here is we can just use the red level to trigger wage worker this turn, draw up, get 2 YDL credits, and still have some wage worker installed.
Yeah.
So right
So
now,
what you do is you use the red level for the click and 2 cards, because you will be able to turn those 2 cards into 4 more credits with your digital lives, therefore triggering rage workers and being able to do something more.
yeah. Just for some quick math, we have 8 cards in hand right now. With the red level, we have 9 in hand. If you play 2 YDLs, we would be at 9 minus 3, 6 and 5. So you make 10 credits, have a wage worker click for the install. So we could have something on server 3 for the runner to check or to bait with the humanoid.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if you remember,
be at a much more comfortable credit total here, and kind of even like offset the value that we lost on previous turns. Like even still, if you just do this turn, I think we have the money that we need. As you know, from where the game went, we ended up not being able to push as hard as we wanted to and need to take a turn off. This would be the money that allows us to not have to take the turn off then later.
If we compare to the actual line, what happens is that we play YDL for 3 credits net.
Yeah,
and there's a massive difference to 6 credits.
This is something that you don't want to do. Like, I also knew when I chose this line that this is not something that I want to do, but I thought the other stuff that I did offsets this enough, but it doesn't. Or like, given that we have a better option, we should take the better option, obviously. So at this point, runner decides between Kurupira and Unity, but we do have the Masquerovka to keep them out. And runner tries to push us with a transfer of wealth and gets stopped by a Hagen, but leaves us at 3 credits. So as you can see, like very clearly here, we don't have the money now. And if we did what we talked about last turn, we would now be sitting at a much more comfortable credit total of like, I think 10 credits ish.
Yes.
I haven't done the exact math, but something around that number.
And so what we see here is we play red level to score the agenda. And if we had more money, we could have fast-advanced the agenda from hand and still have money left over to defend the wage worker with skunkworks.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you imagine just at this point, we have 10 credits, we spent 4 of them to score, we have 6 left, and this red level plus this nano management plus maybe even just YDL because we can somehow.
We
maybe
wouldn't have
not.
it.
I know. It depends. Oh, right, we have played it then. Yeah, okay, fair. But still, like, just being able to, I guess, win, like, getting to 6 points is also worth a ton. So just being able to, just having the option of doing that, we don't need to do it, but if we find ourselves in a position where we need to, we have the money to go forward with that. So that's worth a lot. But also we would more likely look at ways of actually scoring out to send the message, but with like 6 credits in the bank. But also having fired the Midnight Free Ecology, gotten back maybe your digital life or maybe you're fully operational, I don't know, depending on the situation. We'd be looking at a ton of options to be able to score out the send the message and end the game at turn 7 or turn 8 at the latest. But yeah, as we've seen, since we got into this situation, the game got much more dire. We exchanged some. We did have to give up the wage workers actually for this. We could have been able to raise the scatter field, raise the skunk works, and actually force the runner to go lower on credits at this point. Like even this would be already a win for us, even if we do find ourselves at low credits afterwards. We do have the tools in hand to get back up. We have like greasing the palm. We got stuff to do.
Yeah.
So I think we talked about going to turn 8, just have something to compare against. So let's quickly go there. So yeah, if you look at this situation, which was like the critical turn that we looked at in the last game, we could have been at a much more comfortable credit total here, which then just allows us to play probably red level to try and draw the last wage workers in the game, I think, at this point. Oh no, even 2 wage workers at this point. So being able to just fish for them is an option. There are a lot more options if you have money here.
Yeah. If you go
and probably like
if you go one click further to the red level draw,
yes.
Here we have the puzzle. What would be like other play?
We did play the red level.
And imagine we'd have more money, like all the value that we left on the floor. If you have 2-3 credits more, a play that we can do here is we can take a click install the SAM, advance it, and install the skunkworks. And this leaves on so much money that the runner cannot transfer it to avoid the score. And
the runner is looking at having to find their barrier breaker, having to use penny shaver, and then somehow having enough money to also pay for the managam. Like, at least given on the board state, this doesn't work.
Yeah. So maybe as a summary, like, what can we learn from this? Like, what happened?
Yes.
Which differences?
What are my take home learnings out of this secondary replay analysis after going through these lands as well? So I think for myself, like, the biggest thing is to not only think about red level clearance as something to keep for scoring turns, which is still what it does in a lot of cases, where it helps you just push forward agendas by red leveling, nano management, something, install, quadruple advanced score, stuff like that. But what it also does for you is, after you take your first click, if you realize that you need to switch the type of click you're taking, if the first click was a draw, and you draw into a red level, and now you have the option of playing 3 operations, maybe do that.
Yeah.
If the red level allows you to draw cards to then be able to use your digital life, still get wage worker value, and then still dump the cards that you had drawn in your hand, that is already worth it. And that is something that I was undervaluing / I was overvaluing the value of a red level clearance for scoring purposes, especially with the greasing the palm that we have now snuck into the deck by, I guess, cutting a hedge fund, which doesn't feel right. But anyhow, we do have one more operation that allows us to score, so we can a bit more allow ourselves to use red level clearance, but not only for that reason, just using red level for more value will draw you deeper into your deck, allowing you to find more tools that then allow you to score agendas.
So one other thing maybe to take away is fully operational. It's a great card, and while drawing 4 for YDL is amazing, you really want the second remote. Like, the second remote is just so important for the value, to store a spin doctor, to make the runner guess, and so just.
And also, go ahead.
Just to draw into your deck, eventually you're drawn to your deck, and it's not uncommon if you have enough value with flop to be able to just draw your entire deck and find the 5/3 with enough nano managements to score out.
Yeah. I think from what I'm taking away from the game is, I was already liking to start up the secondary remote, but the value in this particular deck is even higher, because once you got your secondary remote and you got them both filled and you are playing a fully operational, you are now drawing 2 cards deeper into your deck, which means that you are drawing 2 more tools to get further into the game. I was thinking I don't have the time to open the secondary remote, because then I'm leaving the runner too much value. But what I should be thinking is that if I open the secondary remote, I can get ahead that bit further into my deck, that bit further into my game plan, and then have the tools to also be safe on centrals, to also have all the eyes that I need, all the operations that I need, everything. Like, having the secondary remote gives you so much value over the course of a game. It might, like in this game, it would have been 6 cards that we would have drawn here. So we would be at the end of our deck. We would, at this point, have the red level clearance in our hand that allows us to do more with this hand. Yeah. So, like, there is a lot that cards can solve for you in this deck, and just drawing deeper into a deck allows you to get there.
Yeah.
And also your digital life, I guess, like, just having more cards means more credits from the digital life, so money is also kind of solved in the same sense.
YDL is so much money, and you want to take it, you want to have it. Sometimes you play a bad YDL because you have to, but often you can arrange it that you get a lot of money. 5-6 credits, not uncommon.
If I see myself taking 3 credits net out of a YDL again, then I will definitely at this point look back at the game and figure out where I could have done things differently to not have to do that at that point. Because I think it's always an indicator that something else went wrong in the game. It's hard to see that while playing the game, but if you go over your replays and learn out of them, you get hopefully into a situation where you can foresee that happening and therefore change your lines and get to a point. For example, open up the secondary remote, get more value out of that, and then never be in a position where you have to take the bad choice. Yeah, I think this sums it up. It's always interesting to see how much deeper you can get into the same replay, even after looking at it with multiple different people. There will always be much more insights and much deeper things that you can both learn about the lines that were taken, but then also about the decks that were played. So yeah, thank you, Pinsel, for this further insight into this replay, and thank you all for watching. And I would say, as always,
hack the planet!